everybody. Today I'm going to show you how you can completely transform a bold prints background stamp just using simple colored pencils. One of the things that I think people think when they look at a big bold stamp like this is truly a bold prints is that there's really only one thing that you can do with it, and that is to stamp a really bold design. You can stamp it in different colors, you can stamp it in black and white, you can emboss it, do emboss resist. But basically, when you see bold designs like this, I think that people tend to think, all I can do is stamp it, and the design is what it is. So today's video is to show you that that is not the case. One of my favorite mediums is colored pencils, and I especially love the combination of colored pencils with ink. So that's what I'm doing here. I have stamped this image in Dandelion ink several times in my Misty because it does have some solid portions. And now what I'm doing, I know it's hard to see, but you'll see it later on how much this adds, is I'm using two colors of yellow. One that is just a shade darker than the Dandelion ink, but very similar. You can see that sitting on my desk over on the right. And then I have a warmer yellow that is a tad bit darker that I'm adding a little bit of shading with. And you will be able to see both of these steps in the finished card, but it looks really subtle right now. I can promise you it's worth the time because it changes the way these poppies look. And I will be filling in shading on both the solid poppies and the line art poppies on this image to completely change the way that they look. It's going to make the solid ones look more three-dimensional, give them a little bit of shading and depth and dimensionality. And then on the line art version, it's going to soften those lines down quite a bit, which will really change the way that this image looks. And I'm starting to do that here. So the first pencil is the lighter pencil that is closer to the Dandelion, and I'm just adding little flicking motions from the line art portion of the stamp into the open area. Now, I don't want to completely cover all of the white because that is one of the things that gives it dimension and makes it look like a highlight falling on the petal. So I'm using very, very light pressure with these pencils, and I'm leaving that open area open. So if you're used to coloring with alcohol markers and doing that kind of flicking motion, you can do the exact same thing here. Now, as I move on to this second flower, you can see already how much this is changing the line art images and sort of changing the mood of the entire background stamp. Now, a lot of people you will see use chemicals to blend their colored pencils. You really don't need to do that. Colored pencils are designed to blend just with each other. And personally, I like the texture that colored pencils add to ink. I like seeing that pencil texture on the paper. If I want to color something that's completely smooth, then I just choose a medium like watercolor or alcohol markers. But with pencils, this is such an old school medium for me. It's probably the first art supply I ever used. I like seeing evidence that the pencils were there, so I just use pencils. Now, what I'm going to do is highlight one of these flowers using the colors that you see on the right that I haven't used yet. I have a magenta, I have a cyan, and I have a deep dark blue-violet that I'm going to use for shading. So now I'm moving into the second phase. The first phase was soft blended color. The second phase, and I'm using the warmer yellow this time, is to really sharpen your pencil and make very sharp flicked lines at the edge of just one of these flowers. I'm not going to do this on all of them. I'm drawing attention to this one so that I can draw attention to the sentiment on the card. But You're not seeing it on camera, but I sharpen this pencil over and over again while I'm doing this. It's really important to have a sharp pencil to get these lines that make this look like a real flower. So I start at the edge of the line art and flick in towards the center of the flower, and you can see how different those lines look from the softer flowers around it. So again, really sharp pencil, really short, quick lines. So I'm repeating that with the magenta, but I'm spacing the magenta lines a little bit farther apart so that I don't cover up all of the warm yellow lines that I created the first time. And again, sharpen the pencil over and over again while you're doing this. Colored pencils are a consumable supply, so don't worry if your pencil starts to get short. You can use a pencil extender, but they're meant to be used. So sharpening it over and over again is just going to make it a better tool. So same thing, I'm coming from the outside into the petal and from the inside of the petal out and leaving that white space in the center. The center of this flower I will actually color with the magenta pencil at the end as well. Now when I move on to the cyan, this is such a different complementary color to the other colors that I'm just doing this every now and then. This is not going to be regularly added to the edge and the center like I did with the yellow and the magenta. This is just little pops of blue because it's an unexpected color in the midst of that warm yellow and the magenta. And it's just kind of a shocking and fun addition to this little flower. It makes it really pop off the page. So first I put some soft magenta around the center of the flower, and then I did little dots of magenta, and I'm also going back with the deep dark blue-violet to add my darkest shading, which really makes the whole flower pop. So you'll just add little dark bits, not everywhere. You want it to be somewhat random, just to sort of move the viewer's eye to those dark shadows that just occasionally pop up around the edge of the flower. And that just adds so much, and all of a sudden that flower starts to kind of come into focus and you really, really see all that detail. Now the stems on this design are meant to be abstract. They're not really coordinated with each one of these flowers. So I'm just choosing one to add some similar shading to with all the pencils that I used before, and this will actually blend right into my sentiment that I'm going to position onto the bottom of that stem. So this one focused flower versus the soft shaded background flowers turns this bold print stamp into something completely different. A little portrait with one of the flowers standing out makes such a big difference. And here's the finished card with all that great detail and different colors. Head over to the blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.